After rewatching Avatar for the 100th time, I realized something. A hero is really only as good as the villain they have to face. And man, this franchise has some of the greatest villains in animation history. But it also has some absolute clowns that I can't stand. So today, we're making a ranking video, ranking the villains from both Avatar and The Legend of Korra. But we are not ranking based on power. If we did that, this would just be a bloodbending glazing session. We are ranking them purely on their writing, their impact on the story, and just how good they actually are as an antagonist. As always, I try to base my rankings completely on consistent writing and the actual narrative, and just kind of give my opinion. Also, keep in mind this is all completely subjective and it just comes down to how the writers handled them. But before we get started, let's go over the tiers. Absolute garbage. They stand zero chance of being memorable. The writers completely fumbled them, they are boring, and every time they are on screen, you just want them to get packed up so we can move on. Mid. They do their job. They serve the plot. Maybe they have a decent moment or two, but they aren't blowing anybody's mind. It's just a whatever kind of character. Solid. These are the heavy hitters. Great writing, super entertaining, they actually push the main characters to grow, and they steal the show a few times. They could easily be the best part of their respective seasons. Goated. Don't really need to explain this one. Peak fiction. They completely carry their arcs and go down in history as some of the best antagonists ever written. Admiral Zhao. Let's just get this bum out of the way early. Zhao is basically a stereotypical bad character who is only interested in himself. His entire personality is just being arrogant and getting mad when things don't go his way. He thought he was that guy because he read some books in a spirit library. He pulls up to the North Pole, actually manages to kill the moon spirit, which, I'll give him credit, was a menace move. But then he immediately gets dog-walked by a giant glowing koi fish and dragged into the spirit world for eternity. He's honestly just a stepping stone for Zuko's character development. Writing-wise, he's a one-dimensional meathead, so unfortunately, Zhao is going to go in absolute garbage. There's just nothing compelling about him. Fire Lord Ozai. Okay, look, Ozai fans are going to be pissed, but don't blame me. Blame the writers for making him a classic Saturday morning cartoon villain. Don't get me wrong, the build-up for Ozai was insane. For 3 seasons, he is this faceless, terrifying entity that is basically the devil himself. And Mark Hamill voicing him? Chef's kiss. When he blasts lightning at Zuko the second the eclipse ends, that was cold. But when you actually look at his writing, he has almost no depth. He's just evil because he wants to burn down the world and rule the ashes. There's no complex philosophy, no nuance. He just wants power. He works perfectly for the story Aang is going through, serving as the ultimate test of Aang's pacifism, but as a standalone character, he's pretty basic. I'm putting Ozai in solid, mostly because the aura and build-up were undeniable and the final fight is legendary, but he's not touching the top tier. Unalaq. Bro, where do I even start with this guy? Season 2 of Korra is already controversial and Unalaq is a massive reason why. He starts off actually kind of interesting, acting as a spiritual mentor to Korra and playing on the tension between the northern and southern water tribes. You think, okay, we've got a cool political and spiritual conflict here. And then the writers just threw it all out the window and said, what if he merges with the evil kite spirit and becomes a giant dark avatar? It was so stupid. He completely loses any interesting motivation and just becomes a generic doomsday villain. He gets completely packed up by a giant blue spirit Korra in one of the weirdest finales ever. He is going straight to absolute garbage. No debate here. Korra Season 2 was a fumble. Amon. Now we're talking. Amon had the most terrifying introduction of any villain in the franchise. The dude is walking around taking people's bending away permanently, which in this universe is basically a fate worse than death. And his philosophy actually made sense. Non-benders were getting treated like second-class citizens, so he formed a populist revolution. He was a menacing, unstoppable force, and that scene where he resists Tarlok's bloodbending and reveals he's a bloodbender himself? Insane. He made Korra look completely helpless. The reveal that he was a waterbender kind of unraveled his entire movement a little too quickly, and the boat explosion with his brother felt like a really rushed way to end his arc. But even with a flawed ending, his overall impact, ideology, and the sheer terror he brought to the screen make him one of the greatest antagonists of all time. I'm putting Amon in goated. He's a different beast entirely. Long Feng, the mastermind of Ba Sing Se. Honestly, the concept of Long Feng is awesome. A villain who doesn't use crazy overpowered bending, but uses brainwashing, politics, and a secret police force to control a massive city. He kept an entire war a secret from the Earth King just to maintain his own power. That's some real-world dictator stuff right there. But the problem with Long Feng is that he thought he was playing chess, but Azula was playing 4D chess. The moment Azula pulled up to the city, she completely stole his entire organization out from under him and basically told him he wasn't built for this. And he just bowed down. He got embarrassed by a 14-year-old. Because of that, he goes in mid. Good concept, completely outclassed. Zaheer. Zaheer is that dude. He is arguably the most well-written villain in the entire franchise, next to you-know-who. First of all, the guy gets airbending and within weeks is out here flying like Guru Legima, something nobody had done in thousands of years. But what makes Zaheer so goated is his ideology. He genuinely believes that natural order is disorder, and that leaders and governments only bring oppression. He isn't evil just to be evil. He thinks he is the hero, saving the world from tyrants like the Earth Queen. And speaking of the Earth Queen, literally suffocating her on screen by pulling the air out of her lungs in a Nickelodeon show, that was arguably the most brutal kill in the franchise. He psychologically and physically broke Korra in a way nobody else did. Zaheer goes straight into goated, undefeated and undisputed. Kuvira. Kuvira is basically the dark reflection of what Korra could have been if she went full authoritarian. After Zaheer ruined the Earth Kingdom, Kuvira stepped up to unite it, and honestly, for the first half of her arc, you kind of agree with her. She's bringing order, stopping bandits, feeding people. But then she goes full fascist dictator, building concentration camps and a giant spirit energy laser mech. The giant mech was a bit goofy, I'm not gonna lie. But Kuvira herself was a menace. She completely dog-walked Korra in their first fight outside Zhao, just embarrassing her in front of everybody. She's a highly competent, ruthless military leader with actual complex motivations. I'm putting her in solid. Azula. You already know where she's going. Azula is the gold standard for how you write an antagonist. From the moment she is introduced, she is an absolute terror. She is infinitely faster, smarter, and more ruthless than nearly everyone she fights. She nearly killed the Avatar permanently with a single lightning strike. She took over Ba Sing Se without even throwing a punch. But the real reason she's the best isn't just her feats, it's her psychology. The writers perfectly crafted this tragic downfall of a child prodigy who was raised by a sociopath. She built her entire life on fear and perfection. And the moment her friends abandoned her, her entire reality shattered. The final Agni Kai against Zuko, where she is completely unhinged and sobbing at the end, is one of the greatest scenes in television history. She is going and goated. There's just nothing anybody could do to top her writing. Well, that's my list. I know there are other villains and side villains, but I just wanted to focus on the main cast for this one. Honestly, I really love the villains in this franchise, especially in The Legend of Korra. I'd honestly say they're the best aspect of that entire show. If you want a part 2 or if you have an idea for a completely different topic, let me know down in the comments. See you guys in the next one.